I can't ignore that these non-hierarchical people who often are married or have a girlfriend that they've had for years, like they have hierarchy. Hey guys, it's Kat and it's time for another episode of True Tea. Now, first of all, obviously we are in a bit of a different situation. This is the current setup that I've been using for the video essay that I'm working on about the rebranding of white supremacy on social media and in America and in the world at large. And so I just was too lazy to reset things up, so I just thought that I would shoot like this. So I know I've gotten a couple of different complaints from people who don't like me standing and talking. I love to stand and talk. I actually feel like I talk better when I stand and talk, so don't be, put off by the amount of times I fidget. But, I'm open to criticism, and if you guys like this, let me know. I like the 2-camera setup. I'm a fan of it. But I'm open to critique. I'm a Virgo, I'm very headstrong, and it does occasionally take me a bit of time to accept change and ideas that are not my own. So some church announcements before we jump into this video. I'm gonna be speaking at UCLA on the 15th. Hopefully you guys can come. I do believe that it's open to the public. I don't have that information right now, but I'm really excited to come to UCLA and talk to you guys. This will be the second time I have done a talk in Los Angeles, so hopefully you guys can make it. I will also be at VidCon doing a fan meetup, so for those of you guys who are going to VidCon, make sure to keep your eyes open for that. And also, if you're not going to VidCon, you totally should be going to VidCon. I would really appreciate, all of the love and support at the con, because it's usually really hectic, and I always love, hearing from people who have been touched by the work that I do. So yeah. Anyway, we're gonna be having a really interesting conversation, and so as per usual, I highly suggest that you go to your kitchen and get yourself some tea. I am drinking some, citrus lavender tea by Tivana. It is so hot that I just really needed something cool and lavender and citrusy. It is just getting warmer, and I need to ingest fresh things. So I love this tea. So let me take another sip before we jump into this very upsetting conversation, I suppose. All right, so this was a bit of a viewer request, because in my video that I made about how polyamory has made me insecure, I referenced non-hierarchical polyamory, and I said that it's a bunch of bullshit. Now, I will edit that what I said there, because I don't think it's a bunch of bullshit, really. I mean, both of my partners currently are non-hierarchical, but they're in very specific situations, which I'll get to, in the past. So I want to say first and foremost that, if you are someone who is non-hierarchical and you were hurt by that, I really do apologize genuinely from the bottom of my heart, because I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to upset anyone. I've got my perspectives as the person who frequently is left out of relationships. So that's kind of where I come from. But I want to say, regardless of what I say in this video, I think that people's self-identity is really important, and people's ability to, really reinforce how they feel and what their personal perspective is. I do believe that's important, even if I, in this conversation, have some qualms with it. So this is gonna be another one of those conversations where you guys are gonna come forward and drag me. But that's what True Tea is all about: learning, sharing, and growing as a community, so that we can, each learn from each other. And you guys always teach me so much. So I am nervous, but quite excited about the comments. Oh, and by the way, I will be pinning every video. I will be pinning my favorite comment. So please leave, a good comment. I'm really only interested in people that want to have a conversation. I'm not going to approve troll comments. I'm not going to approve shitty comments. I'm totally fine with approving people that disagree with me or disagree with everything I stand for, as long as you can be respectful, which most of you can't. So, but I am reading all the comments, and I am approving and denying and all that stuff. So yeah. All right, so let's talk about non-hierarchical polyamory. Now, I know that what I'm about to say is gonna sound really bitchy. I know it's gonna, and I know that a lot of you guys are not gonna hear it correctly. Maybe some of you will, maybe some of you won't. I don't know. I can't control you. I don't know. But so a lot of things have been my eyes have been opened up a lot when I moved to Los Angeles. You know, when I was in Orange County talking about really a lot of stuff, there were so many things that were ideas in my head, but I wasn't really part of a community. I wasn't really part of a scene. And I had opinions about stuff, but I didn't really know, you know what I mean? And so there's been a lot of awakening that's happened for me since moving to Los Angeles, because kind of the across the board realization I'm having is that a lot of people say one thing and do a completely other thing. Now, I am a very practical person. Like I said, I'm a Virgo. You know, like I, you know, on one hand, like to dream and I like to be optimistic and I like to be very, you know, well, maybe one day. But the truth of the matter is I'm a very practical person who likes to believe in tangible things. And, you know, when it comes to non-hierarchical polyamory, I feel like what people say and what they do frequently is very, very different. Now, for those of you guys who probably are not so up to date with what we're talking about here, I've heard people describe their non-hierarchical polyamory really with two phrases, which is one being non-hierarchical polyamory, the other being relationship anarchist. Now, full disclosure, as you guys should know by now, I have a podcast called JSYK where I interview people about the misconceptions about their lifestyles and identities. And I did interview Jace Lindgreen of Multiamory about relationship anarchy. And you know, it was a really interesting conversation because honestly, I, in that video expressed sort of my, I guess, confusion and frustration around people who ID is non-hierarchical, right? So when I interviewed him, he had one definition of relationship anarchy, which is not one that I had heard before. Most people that I know who identify as relationship anarchists, they identify as relationship anarchists as an extension of their political views. You know, relationship anarchy is not just about, you know, them, you know, wanting to do whatever. It's a reflection of their inherent distaste for hierarchy in any space. No gods, no masters. I did a whole video about anarchism if you guys don't know what anarchy is as a political idea. So yeah, that's usually what it is. And so it's kind of this idea of not really having anyone in your life that sort of rules or controls you, so to speak, right? Jace's definition was basically seeing your friendships and, you know, like seeing all relationships as the same or similar, right? Not really prioritizing one over the other, you know, so a friend is, you know, no more or less important than, you know, a partner, so to speak, you know, so it's kind of that idea, right? Now, a thing that I've ran into out here, and I know this is again gonna sound really mean, what I've recognized is I think my practicality is an extension of the numerous marginalizations that I embody, you know. I do not have, I believe, the same ability to, I guess you can say, suspend my disbelief as a lot of people in the poly community. The poly community tends to be very, very white. It tends to be very, very upper middle class. And people who engage in it tend to be pretty privileged, myself included. You know, there is, I believe, some degree of privilege that comes with even maintaining the idea that you could maintain more than one, you know, partner, right? And so oftentimes I will run into, you know, a lot of the stuff that I discussed in my insecurity video, where you've got these people who, the isms and things that exist in the monogamy world still very much exist in the polyamory world, right? And just overall, I mean, obviously for the most part, there is, believe it or not, a very conservative aspect to some polyamorous circles, but it is a lot of very progressive people. It's a lot of people who have fanciful thinking. There's a very large intersection with people who believe in Eastern medicine and practice that sort of thing, and yoga and things. I've seen so many damn invitations to poly yoga and things like that. You know, like it's like, so it's very that, right? And you know, I'm an atheist, you know, I'm very, if it's not tangible, I don't believe in it truly. I mean, certain things, sure, but most things, no. You know, so I don't really connect with that side of it. And to be completely honest, and I know this is gonna, again, sound really bitchy, I do feel like a lot of the non-hierarchical polyamory stuff is kind of a reflection of that sort of thing. I don't know if that made a lot of sense. There's a lot of people who sit around, they've got these fun words they say. They've got, everyone's a poly expert. In the poly community, you will meet so many people who are speakers and this and this and that. I talk about polyamory, but I'm not going to pretend that I am anyone's expert or, I should be writing anything about it. Truly, I mean, I do, but not saying I should. But basically what I'm saying is you got a lot of people who have like these big words and these ideas, and they are beautiful concepts. They are beautiful on their own, but I feel like what actually happens is not consistent, right? Now I'll give you guys an example, right? When I first moved to Los Angeles, there was this guy who I reconnected with, who I matched with on OkCupid like years ago. On my old OkCupid page, I used to talk pretty much in depth about how I really wanted to go to this one industrial club, right? And he was, a goth guy, went to industrial clubs and things like that. And he connected with me and he was like, hey, I would love to show you around sometime, right? I'd love to take you. And so when I moved out here, we started sort of seeing each other, and he is a relationship anarchist. Now he is also politically an anarchist, so that's sort of, he comes from that side where his anarchism is an extension of his political beliefs, right? And so he's a relationship anarchist, but he has a partner who we call a nesting partner, who he lives with. And we were seeing each other for a bit, and it was mostly pretty good. We were intimate in some ways, but we never like actually had sex. But every time we'd hang out with each other, I would look over at his phone, and he would have like 70 missed text messages from his partner. And I knew it was from his partner because we both have Androids and we both use Facebook to text. And when you use Facebook to text, you see that little bubble that has like the number next to it that gets all, the notifications and things like that. It would literally be dozens upon dozens, like every time we hung out, every single time. And through his spending time with me, it became really clear that he was in so many ways neglecting his nesting partner, or not necessarily neglecting her, but that she wasn't really comfortable with this. I mean, there was a big question about whether or not she was polyamorous at all, which is very common. I've dated way too many men who they present polyamory to their partner. Their partner is like, yeah, I'm totally fine with this, but they're not. And then you're sitting across from them on a date and they're sending a million text messages saying, oh my gosh, what are you getting home? What are you doing? I've had a lot of experiences like that. And they're not fun, right? So long story short, while we both immensely enjoyed each other, while we were both very, very attracted to each other, ultimately, he decided that we needed to stop seeing each other in that capacity because he needs to really focus on the person that he loves, and that was just him being real with himself, really. It's just kind of recognizing that he loves this woman and he's gonna lose her if he keeps doing this poly thing, really. And I've talked to him several times about it, and I was like, are you, because here's the issue that I always run into with men, right? And I can only speak about men because I don't date women. I met a lot of men who are polyamorous, right? That is who they are. That is a very central part of their being. They very much enjoy that aspect of themselves, and that's where they live, right? And they meet these women who are not comfortable with polyamory, and ultimately they choose to be very monogamous with them while still being very poly. Now, you guys have to keep in mind, I got out of my last relationship for a lot of reasons, but one of the big ones was that I recognized that I was polyamorous and that was something that like ruined him, right? And so I couldn't imagine being in a relationship with somebody, well, I could, I guess, who is not poly and saying, I'm gonna go do what I'm gonna do. And that's just that, while they sit at home upset. And, realistically, that is a very common thing. I mean, insecurities, within couples and things like that, that's very, very common. But I personally have made the decision to live my life in the most authentic way possible. And I refuse to be in a relationship with somebody who does not want to embrace all aspects of me, including my polyamory. But I've discovered that men are willing to forego their own desires in order to secure a relationship, a monogamous relationship with a woman. Because a lot of women will say, either you have me or no one else. You can't have both, And these guys, a lot of times they're lonely and things like that, and they want to secure that person. And that's been very frustrating for me because I'm dating you. I want to get along with your partner, but I don't like how frequently the people I've dated in general, but also especially the non-hierarchical people, have this relationship where the girl that they're dating can decide that if they're gonna date or not date. Now for me, so here's how I feel about relationship anarchy. Or not really relationship, non-hierarchical, I guess, non-hierarchical polyamory. I think the people who ID as non-hierarchical truly to themselves feel that that's what it is. That's what it is, I don't doubt that that's how they feel. I don't doubt that that is exactly what their perspective of it is. But speaking as the person who very frequently, because of, levels of desirability or whatever, gets into these relationships with these men who are non-hierarchical, who say that they're really into me and they want to keep seeing me and this and that, who stop seeing me because of their partners, realistically, you're not this non-hierarchical person. Now, I mentioned that both of my partners are non-hierarchical, and I believe that they can do that because both of them are older men who have been married several times, frequently, and they both have been through that nesting partner thing. They have experience, in one person's case, raising children and things, and they don't want that anymore. They don't want that. They want to be able to have their relationships with the people that they see and have those be their relationships. They don't want a primary. They don't want a main anything. They want to be able to see people, enjoy their time, and that is where they're at, And so I know that I can date them, and I can, date them without worrying about the influence of their partners, because they're not at that point where they're with people who, they can do that with. I have not yet met a person who self-identifies as a relationship anarchist or a non-hierarchical person who has a partner who they nest with, who has a partner who they spend a lot of time with, etc., who doesn't at some point become uncomfortable with the fact that they're just kind of doing whatever, And, relationship anarchy is one of those weird things too, where, to be honest, I've met very few people who ID is relationship anarchists who I think are not total assholes. Not across the board. It's not I'm not generalizing, but I have probably met 2 people in my life who are relationship anarchists, and that's not a code word for them doing whatever they want without giving a fuck about anyone else, in a lot of relationship anarchy and non-hierarchical poly is kind of about that question of how much do I have responsibility for someone else's emotions, right? And I'm divided about that because on one hand, I feel, if you're with me and you're uncomfortable with me being with another person, then this isn't working, but at the same time, I think it's not unrealistic or uncommon for people to go through those feelings, my thing is this, I think that, like I said, there's a lot of people who say, okay, I am non-hierarchical, and they feel that way, and I'm sure they think they're conducting themselves that way. But, I'm not, like I said, I'm the person who people go on, let me, before we get into this, I have a fun dating life. I have a date tonight. I do have positive dating experiences. I know I complain a lot, but it's not all bad, right? But what I'm saying is, it's very common for me to meet these men who, they do enjoy me. They do want to spend time with me, but I'm the person who they spend time with when all of other options have been exhausted or no one's available. Do you know what I mean? For some people, not all. And obviously I'm in that space right now where I don't want a primary, so I'm not really pushing anyone to do anything truly. And so I it doesn't really bother me as much, right? But I can't ignore that these non-hierarchical people who often are married or have a girlfriend that they've had for years, like they have hierarchy. You have people who you default to spending time with all the time. You have a person, in some cases, who you have children with, who you've got legal responsibilities to, you know, who is going to always take precedent over the new girl that you met on OkCupid. And that's okay. It is totally okay for you to have people in your life who you prefer over others. Like, I think sometimes in the poly community, like, it's very common to meet people who feel like they're just so much more evolved than you are. And to be honest, I do think that sometimes that non-hierarchical stuff comes from that bit of like, but like, I'm more evolved than that. You know what I mean? Like, where they're basically communicating that, you know, I guess that's how you feel, but if you were really woke like I was, you wouldn't have hierarchy or preference for anything. And I don't think that's very realistic. I really don't. I think that it's very normal for hierarchy to exist. And I'm kind of tired of people who do functionally have a hierarchy pretending that they don't have one, or minimizing the fact that they've got a fucking hierarchy. I mean, it's just frustrating because, you know, I don't like, I mean, I guess maybe this is the overarching theme in these videos. I don't like the feeling of, you know, there's this person who I really, really like and you're great and I want to spend time with you, but like, I have this guy who I've been talking to for a while, like years at this point, who, you know, him and I were supposed to hang out. He's a relationship anarchist and and we still haven't hung out. We see each other at events all the time. And it's gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, we're gonna hang. I'm like, I don't care anymore, you know. But, you know, he's every moment I post a new picture, or, you know, he sees me in his feed or whatever, he's like, oh, hey, hi. And I'm like, well, you haven't made time for me. And then you go to his Instagram and you've got, you know, all these photos with these different girls, you know, often sometimes the same. It's fine to have hierarchy. It's totally fine to prefer other people over others. I just want people to be real with themselves. I just want people to be honest. I know that it sounds noble to be like, oh, I'm a relationship anarchist, or I have a non-hierarchical relationship, but it's okay. It's okay to actually really enjoy spending most of your time with a specific person. Now, I know this is gonna be one of those videos where y'all drag me and y'all tell me that I'm wrong and things like that, and I'm welcome to it, but I'm so sorry. Like, I just haven't really, with the exception of my two partners who, again, have their own solo poly experience and things like that, I don't really know how practical non-hierarchical, it's so hard for me to say that, non-hierarchical relationships are. I don't think it's that bad, right? I need that. Anyway, that is what I have to say. So let me know what your true tea is in the comment box below. I do like hearing your guys' input, your opinions, your perspectives. Like I said, I will be pinning my favorite comment, even if it's one that disagrees me, even if it's one that you know, corrects me. I'm totally open to being corrected. So yeah, on that note, I guess I will talk to you guys later. If you're not already subscribed, I hope you will subscribe and, you know, stick around. We've got more videos on this channel. We like to, you know, have a good old time here. So yeah, just click on these other videos and yeah, stick with me and you'll go far, kid. Bye.